So, good morning. It is February 12th, 2022, and 212222, which adds up to 11. So today is an 11, a master number day. And of course, I had to look because I'm not a numerologist, and Robin's not here today because she could probably fill me in. But 11 is about elevating your spiritual growth and achieving enlightenment. And I can say that I don't think I've ever felt quite so achieved as I have in 2022. It's really amazing, the mastery that's coming in personally in my life. But now is the time to harness the great powers of inspiration, creativity, and to exert the freedom to express these energies. The freedom to express these energies. Embody the spiritual attributes of love, hope, faith, kindness, and compassion. And this is about manifesting our dreams, expecting the unexpected, and relying on our intuition. So 11, they said, which is where it leads into what the 1, 2, 3 is the title of today's dissertation, I'm told, is that there's these two opposing forces. What does it say? That the opposing forces that must reach a compromise so they can coexist as equals. 11 represents two opposing forces that must reach a compromise so they can coexist as equals, and then you have harmony. So I'm happy to be here in this 11 day with you. And before we get into the channel, I'd just like to say that next Saturday, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19th, is that right? Next Saturday at 9 o'clock, I'm going to do a little kind of conflict resolution basics. I've been invited to go into a particularly conflicted Baha'i community to help them deal with their racism. And it would be super helpful if next Saturday morning, if y'all would come and be prepared to help me, like, let me do the class with you guys safely. And then I think I will be ready so this is for me, not necessarily the party or the angels or whoever they are. So, all right. So let's settle in. I am going to pull up, where's my compilation? Here we share. So let's get comfortable and start to breathe. Really become aware of your breath, because it's in your breathing that you find the one that you are looking for, the one that you have become. We will command that only the most divine light shine down upon you at this time, and the greatest good be present here. Welcome to the inner circle. We don't say that metaphorically. We say that you are part of our most inner circle. And today we bring this idea of 1, 2, 3. And this is the next step out of these maps and into the physical world. And once again, we're going to bring to you both the macrocosm and your microcosm. So when we talk about the center of the earth, this is the center of you. When we talk about the source or the clarity is that first step out of the nothing into the first one compilation, that's in the middle of the earth and inside of you. As we move forward in examining this next step of the transformation of the entire human species, you're birthing a new humanity. In the next step of that birth, that one separates into two, and then those two, by nature of being those two opposing forces that are forced to compromise in order to coexist together, they become one another. So we'll take Lily. Lily, we're in your void with you. We're waiting down there while compassion or God is getting ready to impel consciousness to spring forth from nothing and step into that one point. And that piece of you that gets segregated off into that coagulation, then when it splits into two, you are viewing one. You're viewing yourself, and yourself is viewing yourself. And you see the same thing because you are the same thing in that deep level. You're like the cells of an actual child that is starting to reproduce and create the body. On that root level, your identity, compassion impels it that those two that are now coexisting together to create yet that third part of you. And now you look and you see Lily, and you look to the other point and you see Lily. Now that there's three of you, you can witness something outside yourself. When there are only two of you, you could not experience anything but self. So this third 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, go. Now it's go time. Because this third witness of self now has activated this sacred geometry of creation and manifestation. It's like a portal. It's a sacred portal that your compassion has helped you create to step through from the nothing of the non-physical into that body. And it's helpful if you think of it as actually a baby growing in a woman's body. And you think about that whole entire process of the cells splitting and then some sort of mysterious mathematics impelling some of them to go become this part of that body, of that, what that baby's going to be, that red-headed 6'3" basketball player or what have you. That master plan, your human mind will never be able to understand that master plan. We have to take pieces of it. And even this overwhelmingness of what we are presenting with you, these maps, getting lost in that primordial soup as you're listening, not having any intellectual structure to what it is that you're feeling underneath. And for you, Linda, that was something we had expressed about you don't need to be able to tell anybody what any of it meant. But seeing it appeals to parts of you that are outside your conscious thinking. This inner circle of you all, You don't have to worry. We think we told you before you could probably sleep through listening to it, and it would have the same sort of impact for some of you. Other parts of yourself might be totally intrigued with the absolute brilliance of how this plan captures and articulates what you cannot, that profundity of creation. And we've tried to write compassion into every step of the way, but it wasn't ours to write. We weren't creating this system, you see. The angels didn't create this system. The Party of 12 didn't create this system. We're reporting back to you what we're seeing, and it's so enormous and so much outside the realm of your comprehension that we're limiting what we're telling you, and you're getting enormous amounts of information, and it's still a little speck compared to the profundity of the system. Why it's so important for each individual to remain not just committed to the idea of compassion, not just committed to the idea of being kind, but committed to the action steps it takes to participate in the birth of the new humanity. You in the inner circle here, who are drawn to this circle, if you get to this circle and you get to the sound of our voice, you've come to the inner circle. And the inner circle is open to anyone. Not everyone will come, but we are here at the center of the manifestation. And we want to take you into all those levels to empower your physical mind to do the kind of transmogrifying of its darkness that it needs to do in order to align with this system of manifestation. This is the greatest experiment of science, spirit, God, compassion, right now on the planet in 2022. This is the culmination of all the civilizations that have come and gone even on the planet. It's the opportunity that has been presented to populate the world with people like yourselves, to inspire you to make every single day your mission. Every day you wake up, you're on your mission. You cannot be off purpose. People often come and ask, am I doing my purpose? Am I following my heart? Am I manifesting what I'm supposed to? Every single day you wake up in that body, you're on purpose. There is no one that comes between you and your relationship to what that purpose is. If you don't know what your specific purpose is, as far as what am I supposed to do to organize my day, so I'm living my passion, that becomes these lessons too. Because if you're in the truth of the whole of who you are, truly not just that you say you believe it, but that you know for a fact that this little human mind of yours is just a part of the entire operating system. If you had to really put it in the perspective of a human system, it's sort of like the doorman. We didn't want you to give your car keys to the kids, but you don't want the doorman to plan the structure of your building. There are experts who understand architecture for that. And the ego is just basically the doorman. It is the part that exists in this amorphous part of your non-physical self, that gelatinous part of the chrysalis, of that butterfly we're always talking about. There's a part of you that it's as this wave is moving up through the earth, going from complete sort of anti-gravity, pulling up into actually the physical world, stuff starts to get a little gelatinous. it's in that area that the sound that's humming you into life starts to come into your own ears, and it starts to build all of what the relationship you're going to have to the world, and then the world sort of organizing the world itself. In that zone, there is a lot of power. If you can get to that place on the map in that gelatinous area, if you close your eyes and do even a little bit of a meditation where you turn inward and you try to reduce the fluctuations of your thinking and center yourself, focus yourself in that place, and then open your eyes to whatever is in front of you. It's like we're setting you up to walk around in a waking prayer. And from that miracle place, every day is on purpose. And everything you do in that day is on purpose, because you are here to learn, you are here to grow, you are here to help birth the new humanity. You are writing the ground rules, you are writing the rule books, you are writing the pathways, and you're making the maps for others to follow behind in generations. If you put yourself in that hole in every moment, no matter what's in front of your eyes, you're on purpose and you're living your passion. Your passion is to be here and to interact with the creation of matter. And for many, many years, humanity had a predictable rhythm. But technology, industry, all of those things that humans birthed out of necessity have risen to great heights that changed the time-space relationships, changed speed. Suddenly humans were flying at 600 miles an hour. DNA was changed. This was the beginning of the birthing, labor pains, shall we say, couple hundred years of labor pains for what you are now becoming, have become. Our hope is to help you understand that there's two things going on in your lives right now. One is that you have installed a new operating system in your human consciousness. You've made these decisions that you're going to be self-aware. You're going to do the work. You're going to work to understand what it means to live by intuition, what it means to actually live in compassion for yourself. So all of you who are here in this inner circle who are listening, you've put those systems in place. But the other side of it is the owner's manual. You did not all by yourself build your new operating system. You and compassion, you and God put in this new operating system. But then your relationship to that operating system is a different skill. And so don't be fooled into thinking just because you have the new operating system that you know completely how to run it, and because it's so massive. And you're already doing this master PhD level work on yourselves. So understand what we're doing this year, because we just spent 25 plus years helping you construct that new operating system. Now we want to make sure that you yourself have your own relationship to that operating system, and you know how to work it, and that you do work it. And if you think of it in sort of old school industrial revolution images, there was always someone who had to be feeding the coal into the operating system. And if you didn't put the coal in the operating system, then it went out. So what you're all experiencing right now is the instant karma of your own self-love or lack thereof. All of you are experiencing a direct return on when you make the choice to love yourself and align to compassion and live in this way every day in your life on purpose. That is who you are becoming. This is who you have become. The opportunity in that description to cover both the sinner and the sin, the two parts of you, the one that is the I am, it is this miraculous being that is creating your body even as you're sitting in the chair. Your human mind could never even begin to fathom how to do that. If you're striving then to live in that place, you'll see as you venture forward and pay attention, you'll see that when you stray from the intuition and pay attention to how things then manifest, pay attention to your inner thought processes. Do not dismiss those inner thought processes. They are the killers. They can feed you so much illusionary information, but then you become those two poles, those two opposing forces that must reach a compromise so that they can coexist as equals. That's the work of the day. Inner world self-love 101. It's your inner forces. But no one's ever shown you a map of those inner forces, or much less how they operate and what they mean, and how you can have this deep, rich relationship to them, and you can master them, and you can master them much easier than you expect. You can master them much easier than your ego, the doorman, tells you. So who are you going to listen to, the doorman or God? And you know the funny thing about that, God will be speaking through the doorman, but you get the drift. When you're moving about your day, paying attention to what is manifesting around you, you become the hand of God. The hand of God can regenerate and can destroy. Your ability to know where you are in that godlike cycle is fortified by setting your intention to be this person, to be this new human every day. And we're stressing right now, much like we did in the very beginning, that this is a daily, hourly, minute, sometimes second process. It's a process that we've been working so much to help solidify into the subatomic parts of yourself, that now you can sit back and have this. It's beyond faith. It's the experience of your I am, the truth of the God within you. And your poor little human mind thinks, oh, how can I carry on this joy and this power 24/7? I want to have a little complaining time. And even that's allowed in the plan. But you will be the only one to make those microscopic decisions of how you use that intellectual energy. And so as we look back on our map, our inner circle with the three, the inner world of everything that's inside you, your whole entire universe is inside you. But in the process of creation, that cell splits into two, and then you have the outer world. And all the math that's going to be experienced is whatever is outside you. And all of the math that's going to have you experience what's inside you is in the first. And then the third becomes that witness, the witness to both of you. And this is emotion, intuition, intellect. This is the source, the observer, and the lens. This is the basis of the prism of human intention that takes that light of compassion. Imagine the force and the power together needed to transmogrify the darkness. What kind of incredible force does it take to create matter on that level? So when that transformation happens, first there was darkness, and then let there be light. There had to be a prism that captured that light and separated it into color, and separated it into animals and the land and the water, and separated it into that physical world. And that light's within you. That human intention is within you. This is your domain. When people wonder what is their purpose, that's your purpose. And that's a lifetime job. But we guarantee it's a journey of magic and mystery and joy and sorrow, all rolled into one unified field of life. So let us inspire you to infuse your purpose with the capital C, compassion, that you will be committed to yourself and your self-love. And as you go forth this week, we want to make a few suggestions for those of you who like homework, is that there is a kind of energy coming next week, planetary energy. And it has to do with what we're talking about, where you see that suddenly, after years perhaps of having something seem unfair and unjust, and a fight, maybe a battle, an environmental battle, or whatever people have been working for change and have been oppressed, you're going to start seeing victories, small baby step victories. Because this is not like world peace in a day where the whole entire world changes in one day altogether in unison. This is about the small there's so small steps you don't even know how small. It's like the creation. It's like this level of creation. This, when you're separating the cells in your compilation of consciousness, that's small. That's a small step. And those are some of the most powerful steps. So pay attention in your own life, external life, and in your own internal life. Pay attention to what your intuition tells you to do, and then pay attention to what you decide to do. And then pay attention to how things manifest, and not just the external details of life around you, but more importantly, the arrangement of your association to your greatness within you, to your power within you. Measure in your life when you get cut off from that, how you get cut off from that. Pay attention to what thinking processes go on. What stories are you telling yourself repetitively? What pieces in your heart might be trying to get your attention? Really, the whole idea is to help show you your power, help show you that what we've been telling you all of these years is now coming into fruition. You have the opportunity in this time period, as all that you do, to manifest the greatest good upon the planet. And if that means that you're shoveling snow at 5 a.m. and out praying for the universe, checking your own emotions, checking your own thoughts, tuning up that thinking to be aligned to the superconscious thought process, opening up like a rice bowl, to receive the discovery of the day. We need people living like that, infiltrated in the streets, in line at the supermarket. That's on purpose. With all of this said, we would love to open for any questions or conversations you would like to have.
Again, it was another intense message, a lot to digest. But I just want to clarify. So the 1, 2, 3, am I correct that you used the metaphor of our inner self and our ego becoming together? They're the two that are compromising. I'm asking because I've had this vision of my ego and my innate, I call it my innate self, actually holding hands and working together. So am I correct in how I interpreted that?
One step further, what we were trying to say in that vision is that the ego is actually straddles in that gelatinous area between your innate and the physical world. So the ego isn't really the physical, it's more the innate world, and the physical world are the two opposing forces that have to work equally. They have to learn to compromise. So in other words, you have to learn how to feel your feelings and process them in order for to have a happy life in your physical world, that kind of thing. So the ego is that middle ground. The ego is in the innate, but it's also got its face fully focused forward in the lens, because that's its job, is to define what's in the lens. The intellect with the capital I is a much bigger part of the system than just that. Does that make sense?
Yes. Now I see that.
So the physical manifestation of your ego in that sense is the body.
Right.
But the ego is also in the innate part. So
it's the physical and the innate working together.
yes.
So getting deeper, I just have another question about compassion. Compassion as the fifth force, compelling the four forces. What impels compassion? How would you describe it? Is it an aspect of source?
It's self-fulfilling. It's programmed to create itself.
And that is within me?
Yes. That is creativity. That is creation. That is what's allowing the birthing of the new humanity through you.
Because there's only one of us here.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Hi, it's Jojo here. I just wanted to say that when you spoke about feeding like shoveling coal was like feeding the, well, whatever it was that needed the fuel to run on. That reminded me of my grandfather, my mother's father. That's what he did. That's what he did for a living. He shoveled coal all day and then all night, actually. And then everyone had to be quiet during the day while he slept, apparently. And it made me think of all our ancestors and all our the generations before us and our own, synchronous lifetimes and so on. And the word compromise, I think that word has such a negative connotation in some cases, but when you separate it out, it's promise with, meaning with, and promising with. that has a better feel to me, that you're making a promise or a pledge, or you're agreeing to work together.
Compromise. A settlement of differences on which each side makes concessions.
I'm reading in my dictionary too.
A laying
It
open
comes, yeah, it
danger.
comes from the word to promise. Make a mutual promise, abide by the decision of an arbiter.
To pledge mutually.
Yeah.
To pledge mutually. However it needs to get done.
For the good of all. It just seems like sometimes it turns out that one person gives in and the other person takes all or wins all in some of the systems we see playing out in society. But that's not the true meaning.
Yes, that is correct. And part of the difference here is that when each individual is self-loving, then there needs to be no concession. You're there to give what you have, what might be needed in that moment, and there's no concession in that kind of compassion, because compassion is about the outward creativity of, and if you bring it down to a service level, it's the difference between serving the world, bringing your compassion into the world, or the ego asking, what can the world do for you? And that's really the difference in those ideologies.
Yeah, that's a good one. Good way to look at it, I think. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And imagine if everyone came to the table ready to give.
It reminds me of back in the day, Barb, when we talked about, we were first learning about compassion, and we were given the idea, come passion. And so this would be come promise, right?
Yes.
Come promise. If you go with that intention, you're going to find a way. And if we both have that intention, when Joanne was talking, it made me think of a handshake. Because handshakes used to be really symbolic to people. And, that could be the symbol of that promise.
That's great, Lily, because, when you shake someone's hand, you're actually connecting hearts, because the heart energy comes out from the hand. See, that's why you're doing that. You can heal with your hands. And now that people are not shaking hands so much, whenever I walk across the road at a cemetery tree farm place, and I wave at every car that goes by, and everybody waves back. And then I read somewhere, somebody said recently, nobody waves, but everybody waves back. If you wave, you're sending out your heart energy. And always they wave back.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I do a lot of waving down here. And speaking of down here, I wanted to say, I want to make sure I got this right, but what I wrote down was, the power is in the gelatinous ooze. And then I wrote, from that miracle place, everything you do is on purpose. And that I could feel that, me being here in Texas, and that I am kind of in the gelatinous ooze. I'm in a place that I just put myself here. It's like God said, go, and I went. And then it's like, God said, I'll tell you when you get there. And so I'm here waiting and watching and discovering. And did I get that right? The power is in the gelatinous ooze?
Yes. The power in the gelatinous ooze is the place where the non-physical dimensions live. So just going back to our map, when you're in the middle of the planet, in the source, there isn't any physical world yet. there's mathematics and there's intentions and there's, electromagnetic domain that's surrounding your world down there. But as it steps out into a wave and it takes its first step into emotion, that primordial soup layer, now it starts to be, that's the first step into being that gelatinous ooze. It's going from having no form to now, once you've got the Holy Trinity inside the source, and the light is shining up through that, it becomes a wave. And now you have particles being projected on that wave. So it's becoming that gelatinous ooze, and then it moves up. And where we're talking about is that when emotion is moving up that wave and it starts to break into two in the external world, just like it did in the internal world, and it becomes sound. On that microscopic level is where the voice of God comes into your body in that gelatinous ooze. And then as it's flowing, now it's getting more and more, everything's pulling more together. The chair's getting more pulled together and you're pulling together all this. You get to the intellect. And that's where your power is, in the sense that your free will operates out of that place. But this is what defines your world, is this intellect. So when you go back into the wave, swimming upstream like a salmon, perhaps, back into the intuitive part of that wave on the macrocosm, you get into that place that literally is that gelatinous ooze. And that's where, if you sit in silence, you'll hear the voice of God. Now, whether you follow the directions, that will be up to the ego. That's up to the doorman. It's a perplexing system, but it's designed to train you to understand your power and then choose to use it for the greatest good.
Because if there wasn't a wrong choice or a bad choice, then there wouldn't be any choice at all. And the whole point of the free will system is that we make choices. So they can't all be easy and good and perfect. That's how we learn.
Yes, and in fact, if we hearken back to the analogy of the clarity, so you're all in the matrix, in the white. There's nothing but this white barren plane. And then there's this spinning vortex around you. Well, that's the earth. That's the center of the earth, literally. So when we say you stick your long arm of your soul into that spinning, that is the beginning of then creating the physical world. And on that level of macro, microcosm, what have you, is deeply embedded inside you. All of it's within.
Well, and that takes me back to something I wanted to say. When Debbie was talking, there was a moment there. I can remember when I was a little kid talking to my grandmother about God, and she was talking to me, but I could tell she was uncomfortable. And finally she said to me, you know, honey, sooner or later we get to the question, who created God? And I can't go there. So I have to stop. I can't go there. And it's like she thought, since she can't understand it all, then she needed to stay away from it, rather than, and it never would have entered her mind that God is inside of her. Right? Don't tell grandma God's inside of her.
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
Although sometimes those, profound wisdoms do come out of the mouths of little children, and it does make everyone else think, if they're at all tuned in.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else?
Just a quick big question. So this is how the earth works. This is the human intention. This is why we're here on earth as humans, fast tracking our growth supposedly. How does it all fit into the larger cosmos?
It is the larger cosmos.
The earth being one cell in one part of the larger cosmos, like from a physical perspective.
Yes, it is the larger cosmos.
That's not computing for me yet.
It's everything originates within you. The larger
Yeah,
cosmos originates within you.
but when I say cosmos, I mean the earth is part of a bigger system, you know, Milky Ways, and on and on and on, all the. So I'm thinking too small probably, but
No,
this is one place where we have experience, where we can have a human experience on earth.
but the human experience you're having of the greater cosmos begins within you.
Okay.
So there is a map that makes it look like the earth is here, and then there's all these other places there, and the chairs over there, and yes, but it all begins within, and it's a self-creating mechanism. So just like Lily, God with a capital G is a self-creating energy. What impels creation? What impels compassion? Create itself. You as a human are a self-creating entity, and the world that you see, you're creating.
Okay. So we're thinking big. Like, yeah, I have to ponder that.
Well, think of it in a picture of, if you're looking at your map and
Yeah.
you're sitting in your lens. And we started this analogy, the very first group channel that we ever did with this inner circle, is that it's like you're in a spaceship. And everything that you're experiencing, all that outer cosmos that you're seeing, is just being projected on the inside curvature of the compilation that is the lens, the electromagnetic field that is the lens that your body's in. And it really looks like outer space, but it's all programming into your consciousness to project this world in that lens. And when the lens closes, the energy still runs. It's just that you don't get to see the chair and the trees and in quite the same way.
In the same way, yeah.
So
I
is
think
it
of
all?
that visual all the time. Sorry. I think of that visual all the time of projecting onto our own screen. So yes, thank you.
So, Joanne, where I'm going, is it like this, where it's all the 1, 2, 3 over and over and over and over again, and it doesn't matter how big it is, and it doesn't matter how small it is? Is that what maybe what's self-perpetuating or self-creating? This whole thing, it's all on the inside and it's all on the outside. And that's like my grandma saying, "Oh, honey, don't ask me who created God." That's huge. That's way more than we can really grasp intellectually. But I can feel it. I can feel it when I say it. So, and I feel like what Joanne just said, Matt, goes together with what Debbie said earlier. It's that whole thing of trying to grasp this concept of God, or of the ability to create, even if you don't think of it as God, the ability to create
Yeah, the
is
creative.
so much more vast than
You and I are always trying to articulate. We're the honor and articulation.
You think? Yeah.
Yes,
I
and
would like to interject something here, if I might.
of course.
I have often, for a very, very long time, many years, have said, I am one with the source. And I don't have to know exactly what that is. I just have to know it exists, and it exists for me. And I find that when I say that over and over, I am one with the source, from my human space that I'm in now, that means that God and I are one, because I think that way. But I also feel like, as Lily was saying about her grandmother, I've asked that same question. Where did this source come from? And I think we will never understand that. That is part of the great mystery. But listening to that voice within me is probably, it is a guiding force for me. I don't always act on it, because that's where that intellect comes in and gets in the way, or the ego might get in the way. But I feel like I hear that inner voice, for some, not another way to articulate it right now. But and I've been trying to equate some of this as to a cell. When a cell divides and divides and divides, and so that single cell then becomes 2, and that becomes 4, or there again, that math escapes me, but I think you understand what I'm saying, or I hope. But anyway, that's kind of where I try to take myself back to when I feel like I'm out of alignment.
Yes, and the reason there are 3, and it's not that there's not 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 into infinity, but it's that triangular triad that creates a different kind of energy field than, say, this compilation of consciousness, the electromagnetic field around the compilation of consciousness. This is an electromagnetic energy field that's in a triangular form, so that when the light comes through it, it can separate into infinity. That basis of your whole life is based on this triangulated human intention energy that's within you as well. And then the reason you go back there to align is because once you go on to 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and on into infinity, then that's the manifestation of this most complicated system that's programmed into all that math that's in the source of the clarity. When you're in the clarity, or you're in the source, and you're in that compilation that's surrounding that math, it has no weight, has no real space, doesn't have any form. How can that then go from 1 to 2, and then when it gets to 3 and it activates that triangular energy field and the light comes streaming through it, now you have the creation of all that math streaming like a fire hose up from the center of the earth, making its way into form till it gets to your body and projects out. And then what? A miracle of a system, but it's complex. So if you want to simplify yourself, If you want to calm down your physical body and your mental state and your emotional state, go back to the 1, 2, 3. Simplify, simplify, simplify. And in there, you'll find your self-love. Just by doing that is self-love. We're going to close the channel this time by saying that once again, you here in this inner circle, as you have for a long time, you've been inviting a deeper dive into your life personally and have come here to help us be able to articulate this extraordinary opportunity that we have together for us to be able to share with you, to the best of our ability, a extremely complex system that we haven't even begun to explore. But we've worked with you all of these years to create these maps, because this is the structure of creation. The more that you get that, you can get an expansion headache, sort of, because your human mind and your ego is trying so hard to put the pieces together and put them over here and build them into form. That's what its job is, to build it into form. So it's doing its job. It's just, if we can appeal to this greater consciousness that has come here to birth this new humanity, to infuse your own free will into dreaming of a greater good, being streamed through that triangulation of human intention, you're going to be a part of it. You're going to start projecting. Well, not start, but you're going to start daily understanding that you have the opportunity, wherever you are in the world, even if it's in line at the supermarket, to project the power of this unification, the power of your own knowledge and empirical experience. That's our mission. And we're so thankful that you're here on this journey with us, particularly this year, because you're going to see some sights coming up. And we are ever so grateful that you're so willing to continue to watch and be amazed. Namaste.